You heard the rest. Now here's the best. Stay tuned, Sports Podcast.
And hello, everybody. Welcome back to our Stay Tuned Sports MMA Combat Podcast. It's been quite a few weeks since we had a show, so with the holidays and everything, it's been kind of rough to get on just myself. But the past 2 weeks, we had Shoulders and myself back together doing the four major sports, covering that stuff. But so with us kind of missing the better part of this past month, I'm going to probably recap some of the stories that have happened and would like to give my opinion on some of the stuff that's been going on. Ben Askrin retiring, UFC and the USA DEA tweaking the policies here. So, but before we get all into that, head over to Twitter, follow us there at ST Sports Podcast, as well as our Facebook page. Like and share that. YouTube channel I'm still working on. But head over there, subscribe, because once we start doing some live video shows, they're going to get put over there in case you missed the live shows and stuff like that as well. And when you go to our Twitter account, I have our Teespring page pinned at the top. If you want to head over there and buy some merchandise, got some hoodies and t-shirts, even for your girlfriend, wife. That with Christmas 2 weeks away, hopefully you would get them in time. Otherwise, you'll be in the doghouse. Kind of like Tyron Woodley is, again, with UFC. I mean, what a moron. UFC offered him a fight over in England against Leon Edwards, I believe it was. And he said no. When he wants to leave the country, it's only for vacation. Now, this is the guy that wants to get the belt back. I mean, you're not the champion. You're not the shot caller. What makes you think you could say, no, I'm good with that? And he was already in the doghouse even when he was the champ with Dana White and UFC. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. If he does end up caving and giving in and fighting Leon Edwards over in England. I forget when they were looking to possibly do that one, but I mean, that you would have to think maybe like early 2020, so. But earlier this, towards the end of last month, I should say, because it's only the second week of December here, Ben Askren retires. And, maybe some of us shock, but not really. For one, he's 35 years old. And other than Daniel Cormier, most fighters, when they hit that 32, 33-year-old age, they start really tailing off. And you get fighters like BJ Penn, Diego Sanchez that just wants to stick around and maybe stick around too long. And let's be honest, I mean, Askren's UFC career really wasn't all made up, like it wasn't what it was supposed to be. He was coming in as supposedly a top-notch fighter who did win a belt with one championship, held Bellator's belt for I think like 2 or 3 years. But the problem is those fighters, and not to knock on them, they're not top-rated fighters. Bellator and one championship, unfortunately, is kind of like a AAA to me. And how Askren came to UFC, it was, air quotes, a trade between UFC and one championship. One championship getting Demetrius Johnson, who's done pretty well for himself over there so far after a few fights. And the only way this came about was basically each company released their fighter so the other fighter could sign with the other company. His first fight with UFC was with Robbie Lawler, and as we all remember, he got planted on his head, somehow survived that, and was able to sink in a bulldog choke to beat Robbie Lawler. That was his only win in UFC. Because then after that fight, he had the infamous flying knee to the head by Jorge Masvidal, which he'll probably be forever known more for that than his championship reigns with Bellator and one championship. Now, he did come out and say the reason why he is retiring is because he needs a hip replacement. I'll give him credit. He said that, and he said, I'm not using that as an excuse of why I lost to Damian Maia, which was his last fight. And I'll give him the respect because he never made excuses with his 2 losses. And even with the Robbie Lawler fight, never made an excuse of, why did he get caught so early and this and that. He's also very good on the mic. Very good at selling fights. Obviously, he was outperformed by Damian Maia, but he talked a good game. And honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing him or hearing him as a commentator. I think it would be pretty cool. I mean, we've seen Michael Bisping, who was a good trash talker, good guy on the mic, good fighter on the mic, transition well into that role. And granted, everybody makes jokes about Askren striking and that little ballerina move, punch or whatever, backhand fist that he tried to use on Maya. But I'm just glad that we keep seeing these fighters that realize, listen, I'm at the end of the road here. It's time to hang it up. And not have UFC have to release you because they don't want to keep putting you out there and you making an ass out of yourself, aka BJ Penn. Or even Bigfoot Silva. He fought with BKFC late October and just got demolished by Gonzaga. I understand, these fighters that want to stick around the game are probably in their head that that's all they know how to do. They don't know what to do else. Which I just don't understand, because BJ Penn, obviously he's not the fighter he used to be, but he's very knowledgeable. Why not be a trainer? Look at Mike Brown. He's putting out a couple good fighters almost every pay-per-view, and they're competitive. So in the end, kudos to Ben Askren. I'm glad to see that you're happy with your decision. You're not regretting it. Hopefully you don't pull a Tito Ortiz or Chuck Liddell and come out of retirement only to embarrass yourself. Even though Tito beat Albert Del Rio last week in the first round, which, again, that was a circus and a half to begin with. That fight should not even count on Tito's record, because it was just stupid. It was more of a money grab than anything. So another story that came about 3 weeks ago, and I'm glad this finally came about, because for you guys that have listened to me over the past few months with fighters getting popped for PEDs, UFC and the USA DEA have come together to basically redo their drug policy. So they made some revisions to the anti-doping policy because of all the fighters that are getting popped for, pictograms of this and pictograms of that. So they added a UFC prohibited list, which sets threshold limits on what constitutes as a positive drug test for several banned substances. They also added a certified supplement that offers immunity to athletes that they find are contaminated. Obviously, the first person you think of is John Jones with the whole pictogram thing. But I also want to bring up about Sugar Shane O'Malley. He got popped, I believe, twice in the past 3 years for a small trace of the drug that he got hit for, even though it showed no significant advantage to have in your system. And the UFC and the USADA realize with the advance in testing technology that it's going to pick up the smallest trace of everything. And I think that's why this had to be fixed. Now, the one statement that Nowitzki from the UFC made was, if the athletes adhere to this, if they only use these certified supplements, I believe it will virtually eliminate the contaminated supplement issue, which has been 90% of the case. I mean, the most recent one was Nate Diaz, right before he fought Jorge Masvidal, and that was a week before the fight, with all the money the UFC put into it, between advertisement and press conferences and stuff like that. Now it seems like all these fighters have the up-to-date information they need to say, hey, okay, wait, you know what? I can't take this one, but I could take this one, which still does the same thing because this substance is banned, or there's too much of this in this certain brand. So there should be no excuses now for fighters to test positive. Especially now, also they if it continues to show up as small traces, they won't be punished for it because some of the substances that they put in their bodies may actually stay in their bodies for the rest of their lives. Which every fight, like with John Jones, we may hear something about this. So I'm glad that UFC and the USADA have realized there was an issue after 3 years of this or so, of going through this, that they finally, hopefully, fixed the issue. Now I'm actually on UFC and USADA's side here, because like I said, the fighters have all the information now that they need, and there should be no issues at all. And hopefully Sugar Shane gets back to fighting, because it's been 2 years since he's been in there. I think he's a very exciting fighter, and I really can't wait to see if he can win some gold for himself. So we're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, Mr. Conor McGregor is back in the news for the first time for the right reasons and not the wrong reasons. So we will be right back. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your good friend Jimbo from Stay Tuned Sports. Are you looking to get into writing or putting out podcasts to give you your hot takes or your opinion about certain subjects of the major sports or even e-gaming, well, head over to bellyupsports.com and send the guys a message to get some information about how you could join our family. I've been part of the Belly Up Sports family since February, and I'll tell you what, it's a bunch of great guys and gals, help each other all out, and don't judge each other about what we put out there. So if you're interested, head over to bellyupsports.com, send a message to the guys. We're looking for writers, editors, even podcasters. So again, that is bellyupsports.com. Head over there, message them, and even read some of our articles. And we are back after a little break there about Belly Up Sports. Like we said, we're looking for some writers, editors. Head over to bellyupsports.com and hit us up over there, and you can start writing for us and be part of our little family there that we got going. So, like I said before we left for that break, Mr. Conor McGregor is back in the news. Yes, this time for the right reasons. Well, I mean, he still has the bad shit going on that hasn't been charged or anything like that with the sexual allegations, but he is definitely returning January 18th against Cowboy Cerrone. If you guys remember, I believe it was 2 years ago that this was one of the fights that a lot of fans were hoping would get done, even Cowboy himself, just because of the trash talking that's going to lead up to it. And naturally, like McGregor normally does, he drags his feet, and I believe that's when he got the Floyd Mayweather fight, because Cowboy ended up fighting, and but this one's set for January 18th at the T-Mobile Arena. And I'll tell you what, 2 years ago, I think McGregor could have took Cowboy, but for you guys that have listened to me over and over, that I believe a lot in ring rust, Conor hasn't fought since 2016, and that was against Habib, which he lost in the 4th round. Now, McGregor has come out and said that he really didn't train that hard for that fight, and some of the stories coming out since this news broke about this new fight with Cowboy is that a lot of the trainers and his coaches are saying that they see that fire and that want back again that made him so popular in the early 2012, 2013. Now, like I did say, though, he is still under investigation for 2 sexual assaults back in Ireland. No charges have been filed yet. I'm just curious if this is going to hinder it at all. Does Ireland come out and say, we do have good enough evidence to charge him, and he might be a flight risk. You can't get a passport. Now, granted, we have basically 4 weeks, a month till this fight, so this has been going on for a few months. Maybe it doesn't get resolved. If he does get charged, I mean, especially the one is a rape accusation. I mean, how does UFC still keep him on one, not even just the card, but on the roster? You have War Machine that he obviously he sucked in UFC. He went to Bellator. Obviously he had issues when he was with UFC, so that was one of the reasons why they cut him. But I understand McGregor is a big money draw for you, but you gotta have some type of line to say, listen, we can't associate ourselves with people like this. And hopefully these allegations are false and we do get to see his fight. because I think with the ring rust with Conor and Cowboy not being the Cowboy that he used to be, this could be a good fight. Cowboy's coming off two back-to-back losses. One to Justin Gaethje, and the other one to who the hell did he lose to? Was it Diaz? I don't think it was Diaz. I forget who he lost to, but that's the one that he, his eyeball ballooned up and stuff like that. Now, this past week, though, speaking of this fight, Dana White came out and said, if Conor beats Cowboy and Habib beats Tony Ferguson, Conor will get the rematch. And I seen a lot of you guys on on Twitter kind of go ballistic about it, and I don't blame you. How can you give a guy a rematch who just beat a guy that has back-to-back losses? Yes, Cowboy may be ranked 4th, and Conor beat Ferguson, but he hasn't fought in 2 years. I mean, me personally, I would like to see, let's just say Conor beats Cowboy, which I don't know if he could. I mean, I'll be honest, I really don't think if he could. I would like to see Conor fight Justin Gaethje for a number 1 contender bout, or as UFC would like to call them, interim champion, since they like to hand them out like candy. Then if he gets to him, then okay, I'll say, fight Habib then, because timeline wise, I think it would match up. You got Conor and Cowboy in January, you got Habib and Ferguson in April. So if Conor beats Cowboy, line him up with maybe even put him on that card, and they'll line right up with the timeline. Now, do I think he beats Habib? No, I don't think so. Until he shows me he could wrestle, or at least defend takedowns, that's going to be his kryptonite. Yeah, he has that left hand that if you telegraph that you're going to come in with it, with a takedown, he's going to take you out. But speaking of Habib and Ferguson, like I said, they're fighting in April, I think Ferguson beats Habib. It just seems like Ferguson is hitting his stride now with his wild striking. And even if he gets taken down, I think he could get up easy enough without taking too much damage on the ground from Habib. Now that fight will be taking place at the Barclays Center in New York, because remember, Habib said he wants an apology from Las Vegas. It's like, shut up, dude. That's even if they make it there. Now, that's another scenario that I could see happening, because this is the 5th time they have booked Ferguson versus Habib, going back to 2015. Twice, Habib had to pull out due to injury and weight issues, and Ferguson had to pull out twice due to injuries. So if Conor beats Cowboy, you would automatically have to think that if he can't find an opponent to fight around that April date, he would have to be the fighter standing by in case one of these guys can't make the match. Obviously, yes, I think the McGregor-Habib fight would make a lot of money. But I think not only the fight itself, if it was Conor versus Ferguson, would be an entertaining fight, I think the lead up would be. You know, I do like a little trash talk, but not like a Colby Covington type trash talk. Like to me, he takes it too far sometimes. Most of the time. I was gonna say sometimes, but most of the time, I think he takes it too far. So we'll have to wait and see how that fight, those two fights end. But looks like we're back to a collision course with Conor versus Habib or Ferguson sooner rather than later. So before I give my UFC 245 picks, which is this weekend, last week we had UFC Fight Night. Alistair Overeem versus Struve. I just probably butchered that name. I'm sorry. But there was really only two fights I want to touch on. Was the Overeem fight and the Stefan Struve fight. First off, and this will be a quick one with Overeem. Holy freaking cut lip. I mean, I never seen a punch just rip a skin, let alone his lip, skin apart like that. I mean, everybody said that the Mike Perry nose being broken was bad. Take a look at that lip. I mean, he almost split it right up to his nose. And for the people that were like, oh, the ref stopped it too soon, just watch the video. He gets punched in the face, gets dropped. Wasn't like he stumbled and fell to the ground. He dropped. You could see he wasn't there in his eyes as he was falling down. And then when he did get up after the ref stopped the fight, he was stumbling all over the place. I think that the stoppage was the right thing to do, especially with that lip. I mean, you would think, okay, yes, I understand there's 4 seconds left, but we're trying to protect these fighters. I mean, just a week or two ago, I mean, it wasn't UFC or Bellator, but there was an MMA fighter that died in the ring because of 2 made punches. So I think the stoppage was good, but holy shit, was that a freaking cut in half. And then the other fight between Stefan Struve and Ben Rothwell. A little bit of controversy going on. So Stefan Struve was pretty much winning the fight from my understanding, because like I said, I didn't see it. I was out of town. But Ben Rothwell got deducted a point because he landed 2 low blow shots. I guess Stefan Struve was contemplating not being able to continue on. Dan Leotta, who tried to cover up his mic, but he still heard him, say to Struve, I got you winning this fight. Basically, push through it. You're winning it. I'm about to deduct him a point. He basically did show some biased opinion towards Struve. I don't think that was right by Leotta. I think he's one of the better refs. But this is the second controversial time he's been involved with in the past 2 months. If you guys remember, it was a month and a half ago with the whole Michael Page thing, where Michael Page was taunting the fighter. He was destroying the fighter, winning the fight, and he deducted him a point and basically did give him ripped him a new asshole during the fight. He started to show a little bit too much emotion as a ref. If you want to be a fan and sit in the stands and yell that, Struve, I got you winning, keep it going. Hey, that's one thing. But when you're in that octagon as a ref, you can't be doing that. To me personally, I don't think you could be doing that. And I really think Mark Leotta should be fined. Something, or suspended. Because you're just showing now that you're taking a point away from the other fighter, even though you have the other fighter winning. To me, it just not right how he handled it. Maybe he has some personal stuff going on outside that he's kind of being semi-distracted. But I think Big Dan's better get some things in order before he gets back in there to be a ref. So like I said, we got a big pay-per-view card, UFC 245. Usman versus Covington. Everybody's been waiting for this for months. For a little while there, we didn't think it was gonna happen. You know, Covington said he wasn't gonna take the money because he's making, 3 times less than a champion. This and that, all this other bullshit that he says. Also have Max Holloway versus Volkanovski for the 145 belt. Amanda Nunes versus GDR for the 135 belt. Also have Jose Aldo making his 135 debut, and I'll get to him in a second. And kicking off the pay-per-view, the main card, is Peter Yan versus Uriah Faber. So I'm just going to jump right into my picks. Peter Yan versus Uriah Faber. Uriah Faber seems to have found the fountain of youth for fighting. Both fighters, this is a hell of a fight to kick off the card. I gotta go with the old man. After watching his last fight, he looked really good. He looked young. He had that spring back in his step. Maybe taking a little bit of time off helped him get back into the love of the sport. So I got Uriah Faber winning this first one. Then after this fight, we have Jose Aldo versus Marlon Moraes. I don't know if you guys have seen pictures the past couple days of Jose Aldo making his 135 weight cut, but man, does he look bad. He looks so depleted. He's literally just bones now. There's no skin. He actually, I don't know if you guys remember when CM Punk made his first weight cut, where when our good friend King was on, made the reference that he looks like Skeletor. Jose Aldo looks like he's trying to earn the Skeletor casting for Kevin Smith's He-Man show. But I did see a few of you guys out there say, you know what, even Conor McGregor did defend him and say, just looking at him, he looks like where he should be for the weight cut. He doesn't look that bad. And that's why it's always good to hear these fighters come out and say this, because for us Joe Schmoes who don't do this for a living, don't do the weight cuts, the training, all that, it may look bad to us. But that's why these fighters have these coaches and trainers and health coaches in their corner to make sure they're doing all the right things healthy. Now, I'm recording Thursday night, so we'll see Friday, tomorrow, at the weigh-ins to see if he's okay. But as far as the fight, though, even with some of these fighters coming out and say, Jose Aldo looks right where he's supposed to, I'm going with Marlon Moraes. He's just a good fighter. This is his division to be in. I don't think Jose Aldo should be in a 135 division. I think he should be 145 or 155. I think this is just too much of a weight cut for him to take on. And I understand, he's a legend and stuff like that, but Marlon is he's no slouch, So I'm going with Marlon Moraes with the win. Then after that, we have the first of 3 title matches, I should say. Amanda Nunes versus GDR for the 135 belt. It's kind of the old adage about the Patriots. You keep picking them until they lose. I'm going with Amanda Nunes with a knockout. She's got the power. GDR, she's tough. And I'm not saying that Nunes is going to run through her like she did with Cyborg, but till she shows me otherwise, I'm going with her every time. After that, we have Max Holloway versus Bogdanov. And I think this is going to be my upset. I think Holloway loses because he's already talking about moving to a different weight class to chase greatness and blah, blah, blah. You can't look past Volkanovski. He's got power. He could beat you a bunch of different ways. And I think that's what happens. And I think he humbles Holloway and brings Holloway back down to earth to say, I should just worry about this division first. Let me conquer everybody in here like John Jones does in light heavyweight. Then I'll worry about moving to a different weight class. Then we have the main event. We have Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington. The one thing in MMA that should not happen is politics should not get involved. I understand that's Covington's persona for him to be the villain that way, but I really hope Usman does to Covington what he did to Willie. Just pick him apart and make him pay. I hope it goes all 5 rounds. And Covington is all kinds of cut up. Because I just can't stand some of his comments. Some of them are a little too far. Some of his statements I don't believe. Him saying that UFC was about to cut him until his "you filthy animals" post-fight speech. Listen, if UFC wants to cut you, they're going to cut you no matter who you are. And just because you said that doesn't mean they're going to keep you around to make you the next Conor McGregor. So, like I said, I got Usman winning. He probably could win by knockout if he wanted to, but I see this going all 5 rounds. Out of the 3 title fights, the one I think that could be a war, that could go to a decision, even though I had Volkanovski winning, I think that fight could go to a decision. I think Volkanovski could win it. And I think it's going to be an entertaining fight too. So that's going to be it for this week for our MMA combat show. But we will be back next week with a brand new Stay Tuned Sports. So before we go, head over to Twitter. Follow us there at ST Sports Podcast. Like and share our Facebook page. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. I think that's it. I mean, it's been that long since I did one with you guys that I actually kind of forget what I was supposed to end with. So, till then, this is your good friend Jimbo, signing out.